Self-reg sounds great, but I don't think it can help me with that one child whose issues go way beyond anything that self-reg could address.
Okay, so that misconception is wrong. And what happens when you help that one child is not only are you transformed and the child transformed, but all the other kids are transformed. And though that child is a gift. And so accept the gift and find joy.
And remember that, sometimes when people say something like this, they're thinking of certain diagnosis.
Yep.
Okay? And whether there isn't one pending, from my perspective, I really advocate for self-reg at a universal level. I advocate for, and not anti any of that diagnosis or any of those sorts of things, but this is different. And it's universal and it's all of us. I don't care what it is you're dealing with. If we are blind to realizing that stressors and stress is not part of that, we're missing an opportunity. Does that mean that you're going to help a little bit move along a trajectory through understanding self-reg, learning to manage energy and tension, and then that's going to resolve everything else? No. But at the same time, I think that in a lot of cases it's going to make a huge difference. I've seen some phenomenal things happen, but it's something that should be worked on simultaneously. Sometimes when you work on the universal levels, you'll be just unbelievably amazed to see what opens. Some of the things you thought you were dealing with actually dissolve away, and it can open up all kinds of new opportunities.
So, quick case?
Yes.
Okay. The natural inclination when you hear this kind of a misconception is to, right away, you go into the behavioral side, right? So you're going to think of that child as, the challenging child, explosive child, etc. So I had a very interesting conversation with my daughter's school about a month or 6 weeks ago, and they wanted to talk about a girl who was that child because she was constantly zoned out. And the word used was a little ditzy. Actually said ditzy.
Wow.
So as it happens, the reason they wanted to talk to me is I know the girl. I know her fairly well. And this is a child with all sorts of sensory hypersensitivities. Okay. Not a hard thing to deal with. The point I wanted to make here is the following. Not, look what's possible when we get to know the child, blah, blah, blah. All of the concepts, all of the judgments, or whatever we want to call them, that we make about a child need to be reframed.
They do.
All of these concepts that we have, so in the math piece I just finished, we talked about distractibility. When it's not distractibility, it's heightened threat detection. The child who was zoning out was, in fact, this is an avoidance behavior because it's an unconscious way to try to reduce the sensory assault. So what we're trying to do as we go through self-reg with you is give you the scientific tools for you now to start to question the concepts and the assumptions that we make about a child. And the paradigm revolution that we're talking about is a revolution in our tools and our perceptions of what is going on with this child and how old assumptions, self-control, willpower, whatever, they are not only harmful, but okay. So here's the last thing I want to say. I'm reading right now Darcia Narvaez, who is very good, and she uses the following experiment. They had this kid that this is where neuroscience blows me away. So very, very selfish, very, very grabby and all that stuff. And so she talks about this study, which, I mean, okay, I read this and I thought, oh my God. They were running a standard competition paradigm on kids, where you gotta compete with each other to get limited resources. And then what they did was they knocked out two systems in the prefrontal cortex. They knocked out the dorsolateral and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. So these are the systems which underpin self-awareness, judgment, inhibition, all those things. And what they found was an incredible surge in sharing behavior. Wow. The limbic system wants to share. And so I think back to where we started this morning and how, this idea that the child, strip away these defense mechanisms and you have this beautiful human being. So partly what we're doing when we talk about self-reg is that the blue brain itself can become the source of a problem. That in that child is something beautiful. And so what we have to do is we have to now, through the foundations, we have to start to question assumptions that we've inherited, which are not in fact validated or whatever, verified by modern science. This truly is a paradigm revolution.
And with those assumptions, the myth of normal, trying to bring everybody back to average, missing on the strengths.
Good one. Good myth.
And that's not, we want to, we are, as an organization, I don't even know if you know this, but we have Dr. Wendy Elford from Australia working with us. She wears very proud to describe herself as an ASB. She's a PhD researcher. And she jokes about having Asperger's and
I adore her
and having it ruffle feathers along the way. We're asking her for feedback as she's doing our foundations course, and she is catching stuff that we would never have caught. And you embrace it, right? You embrace it. I think about Charlene that I taught in grade 3, who taught our whole class just by embracing her and what we could learn about her through her uniqueness and how that actually shifted this group of grade 3 kids, embracing it. But it's this myth of average and getting away from it, and what can we learn, and how can Self-Reg help us take there?